just stand on this blue line right here, okay?
Sarah, if you face me and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, good afternoon, man. You have a nice loud voice. Just make sure you keep your voice up the whole time. Can you introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name?
Tammy Carbone, C-A-R-B-O-N-E.
Hey, man, where do you live?
I live in Salisbury, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in Salisbury?
I have lived there for 30 years.
And what was your relationship to Leroy Fowler II, or Leroy Fowler Jr., as he sometimes referred to?
I'm his sister.
And older sister, younger sister?
I'm his older sister.
And were you and Mr. Fowler, you and your brother, close?
Yes.
He also lived in Salisbury for a lot of his life, is that right?
Yes.
And did you guys spend time together?
Yes.
What did you guys do? What did you guys do for fun together?
A lot of times we like to go yard sailing, and I would go down the beach sometimes where he lived.
Okay. And would you guys go down, would you guys actually walk down to the beach area and sit on the beach, or?
Yeah, we'd go down there, and then sometimes we'd go down the beach and go down and get pizza and stuff.
Okay. How often would you see your brother?
Sometimes I'd see him like every week, and I'd see him a couple times a week, and then on the weekends, when it was yard sale time, we'd see each other probably every weekend.
Anything in particular that you would sort of look for when you go to these yard sales?
No, we just like to go. We always enjoyed yard sailing together.
I've never heard that term before, yard sailing.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it.
Okay. And so, would he come by and pick you up, or would you meet him there, or did you have
Sometimes I'd pick him up, sometimes he'd pick me up, and sometimes we'd meet somewhere and we'd go together, and we just really always enjoyed it. It was a thing we all did. The whole family always did it when we were younger, and we enjoyed it a lot.
All right. Fair enough. Now, did you know Mr. Fowler's girlfriend, Miss Church?
Yes, I did.
How long have you known Judy Church?
I have known her since he started going out with her.
Okay. Did you see her here in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Just point her out and describe something she's wearing.
She's right there with, I believe it looks like a blue jacket, black jacket.
Just ask that the record reflect identification, Your Honor.
To me.
Thank you. And so, about when did your brother, Mr. Fowler, and Miss Church start their relationship? Do you remember?
I believe it may have been it was either like 13 or 14 years ago.
Okay. So around 2012-ish, in that range.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you first meet her? Just through your brother?
Yes.
Okay. And did you when you would socialize with Leroy, did you also socialize with Miss Church?
Yes, I did.
And was she part of the yard sailing crew?
Yeah.
All right. And did you and Miss Church have a independent relationship of Leroy?
Yeah. I mean, I would go down there and visit with her, or she would go with us on yard sailing, and she joined in.
All right. Did you and Miss Church sometimes talk on the phone together?
Yes, we did.
Sometimes text back and forth?
Yeah.
Did you also know Leroy's other girlfriend, for lack of a better way to put it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what was her name? What was her name?
Her name is Barbara.
Okay. Barbara Randall?
Yes.
And you also sometimes, see Barbara and socialize with her when you were seeing your brother?
Yes, when he was with her, if he stopped by or if he called me, she even joined in the yard sale
So, a little awkward sometimes?
Yes, it was.
Now, but sort of something you just accepted about your brother?
Yeah.
May I approach you?
Fisherman?
May I'm just gonna hand you a photograph and ask you if you recognize the individual in that photograph.
Yes, this is my brother.
Is that a fair picture of what he looked like, you know, in the year or so before he died?
Yep.
All right, Your Honor, I this as the next exhibit.
No. May come in, this is the next exhibit.
All right, so that's a picture of Leroy, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the good-looking puppy that's sitting on his lap, who's that?
That's Saul.
Salt?
Yep.
Okay. All right, and you know where the picture was taken?
That is at their house at Salisbury Beach.
Okay, so 108 Central Ave?
108 Central Ave, yep.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. And so
You're welcome.
You're familiar with 108 Central Ave, the home there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you sometimes visit Leroy at the house?
Yes.
Okay, and how often would you go over to the house and do things there in the home?
I have been there many a times.
Okay. In the months before his death, were you there frequently?
No. I hadn't been there in quite a while before that.
Okay. Would you still go to the house and see your brother outside of the house?
Yeah, for a while there, I hadn't been in the house. I would go there sometimes and he would come outside and talk to me. Or I'd pick him up there if we were going anywhere.
Did you make any observations about the inside of the house as I sort of in the months leading up to his death that you noticed as you weren't going in as much?
No, there really wasn't much going on. Like outside, there was a lot of stuff outside and stuff, but I hadn't been in quite a while.
Okay. Now, I want to take you back to November of 2022, and in those last couple of days before Leroy died.
Yep.
Do you remember when the last time you saw him was before his death?
Yes, the last time I saw him was the week of November 4th on the top of my street on Brooks Road in Salisbury. I was sitting up there to pick up my grandkids off the bus, and him and Judy Church pulled up, and he spoke to me, and that was the last day I saw him.
How do you look?
He looked fine. They stopped there and talked to me a few minutes, and then they went on their way.
You didn't notice any problems with him? Nothing?
Nope. He talked to me to make sure I had a ride into Boston with my husband, and told me if I didn't, the following week, to let him know. And they were fine. They were getting lunch, and I talked to him a couple days after that, and I didn't hear from him at all after that.
All right. So you said you talked to him a couple days, so that was what you said about November 4th or so?
Yep.
Okay. And then you said you spoke to him a couple days after that.
Yes.
Was that on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. And when you spoke to him on the phone, did he sound like he was doing okay? He was able to talk to you? No
Yeah.
problems communicating
Yep.
with you?
Yep.
Okay. Now, November 11th, was that a special day?
Yes, November 11th is his birthday, and I tried to text him that morning, and he never texts back.
Okay. When was the first time that you learned something was maybe wrong with Leroy?
At around 6:30, that night, I, got a phone call from, Judy Church. And, she told me that she had been at the hospital all day with my brother.
And did she tell you what was wrong with him?
She told me that, she took him to the hospital, and she had sat at the hospital all day with him, and, that they took him to, I can't remember the name of the hospital,
Do you remember the first one she said that he went to?
Anna Jake's hospital.
Okay, and then did she then tell you that he was getting transferred to another hospital?
Yes, she told me that she had him, he got, she gave him, okay to put him on a ventilator because he had something wrong with his pH, and, she went on to tell me this whole story.
When you say this whole story, what did she tell you? What do you remember?
She told me that, the day before he was having trouble, thrashing around at the house, and, he was banging up against the house. They were getting ready to, move furniture out and everything, and he was, going on and banging around the house, and, had knocked over all kinds of furniture, and curtains, and banging around, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, I don't know what was going on with him. He just couldn't stand up, but you know how he is. He thinks he's 20 and thinks he can bang around and pick everything up, and I don't really know what was going on with him. And she said, and then he said to me, well, he said, if I didn't know any better.
Don't, just because of the way the rules are, you can't tell us what Mr. Fowler said, just some of the things that Ms. Church said, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right.
And
So
then
let me stop you there for a second.
Okay.
So she was telling you about some of the events that had happened on November 10th, the day before.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she had, and she said, so I, she said, so he was just banging around, falling down, and knocked over all her curtains, and knocked over all her paperwork, tax papers, and stuff. So I said to her, why are you here with him? Why'd you stay there all day with him? I said, that's not normal. Usually you would call me. I said, and you didn't call me.
Okay, so let me stop you there. So you said she called you around 6 or 6:30 that evening?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said usually she would call you. So Mr. Leroy had a pacemaker.
Yes, he had a pacemaker.
He had some other health issues.
Yeah. So whenever he went to the hospital, if Barbara or Judy took him to the hospital, they would call me. I was always the first one they would call if he was there. And I asked her why she didn't call me. I said, you stayed there for like 12 hours and you didn't call me, and you gave them an okay to put him on a ventilator and all that, and you didn't call me? And she's like, oh, well, and that's when she started giving me the whole story, that everything went on and what was going on. And then she started telling me that his pH was off, and all this stuff about his blood, and she just went on and on about this whole story.
Okay. So during the phone, do you remember how many phone conversations you had with her that night? Was it just the one that you're talking about?
Then she hung up, and then she said, I have to get home because I have to take care of the dogs and pick up all the paperwork and put my curtains all back up that fell down. And so she went on with all that, and then that was the end of that.
So let's go back to that phone call for a second. All right. Now, during the phone call with the conversation with Ms. Church, did she say something to you that?
Objection. To leading, what's the objection?
Leading.
It may be necessary to frame the question, but Mr. Camillo, think about that as you frame it.
Thank you. Did she say something to you that was concerning?
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. So what did she say to you that concerned you during that phone conversation?
She had said that Leroy had said something to her about.
I'll see counsel at sidebar if I need to on this. Let me just make a few observations.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, Billy, we're good to go. Bring 'em in.
All right, for the judge. Be seated.
Amelia.
Ms. Carbone, when we took the lunch break, you were telling us that you had the opportunity to go and visit Leroy at one of the hospitals. Remember that?
Yes,
In which hospital was it that you went to?
it was Beth Israel.
Okay. And was that on the 12th, so that Saturday, or was that on the Sunday?
That was on the Sunday.
Okay. And when you saw Leroy on that Sunday, was he awake at all?
No,
He was, what could you tell about, just by looking at him at that point in time?
they still had him on the machine, and that's when they were going to take him off the machine.
So what you said, he's on a ventilator?
He was on a ventilator, yeah.
Okay. And that day, you and the rest of the family had to make a decision to take him off the ventilator? Is that right?
Yes,
And he died on the 13th that evening, around about 7:30 that evening, or not, excuse me, 9:30.
yes, it was around 9:30, I believe. It was about closer to 9:30, yes.
And, while you were with him at the hospital, he never woke up.
No,
That's all I have, Judge. Thanks.
Mr. Scully.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
My name is Liam Scully. I represent Judy Church. You and I have never spoken before, is that right?
Right,
Okay. I just have a few follow-up questions. Is that okay?
yes,
Okay, great. So you are Leroy Fowler's sister,
yes.
and where was your family originally from?
I was originally from Newburyport, Mass.
Okay. And did you grow up in the Essex County area?
Yes,
Okay. And grew up with Leroy as a brother in the house for the most part?
yes,
Okay. Knew him very well, obviously, it sounds like,
yes,
and had a good relationship with him.
yes.
When he, do you know the name Julie Hawkins?
Yes,
Who is Julie Hawkins?
that was one of his girlfriends.
Okay. And was that a relationship that he was in before he was in a relationship with Judy Church?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how long he was in that relationship?
Oh, probably 14, 15 years.
Okay. And did they have a son together, Michael Hawkins?
No, that was his stepson.
So Julie Hawkins had a son, Michael Hawkins?
Yes,
Leroy, through his relationship with Julie, Michael felt he was his stepson? Or
Yes.
considered himself stepson?
yes.
Was that like a legal situation or just a
No,
familiar way?
it was just like, it was her son.
Okay. And was there a time when Leroy Fowler and Julie Hawkins lived together
Yes, they lived together for many years.
for many years?
Yes.
And during that time, were they raising Michael Fowler? Was he growing up?
There's no Michael Fowler.
sorry,
His name is Michael Hawkins.
Michael Hawkins, were they
Yes.
raising Michael Hawkins? And also there's Leroy's son, Leroy Fowler, right?
Yes,
Were they also raising him at the same time?
yes,
Were there any other children in that household at that time?
no,
Okay, so you've got Leroy Fowler and Julie Hawkins and Michael Hawkins and Leroy become junior?
yes,
Okay, those are the four people
yes.
living in that household for many years.
Well, Michael Hawkins wasn't there for many years. He was grown.
Okay, but some of the time he was there.
Yes,
All right. And that sort of functioned as a family unit before Leroy had any involvement with Judy Church. Is that fair to say?
yes,
Now, at some point, is it fair to say that Leroy and Julie Hawkins separated?
yes.
At the time that they separated, was she sick?
Yes,
Okay, did she have cancer?
yes.
And did she survive that battle with cancer, or is she deceased as a result?
No, she's deceased.
Okay. So Leroy and Julie broke up at some point before Judy Church comes onto the scene, right?
No, she did not. Judy Church got with Leroy when Julie was still alive.
She was still alive, correct?
Yes,
But do you remember a time when Leroy had moved into a house that was then owned and lived in by Judy Church and by her husband, Rusty?
yes,
Okay. And at that time that he moved into that house, Julie wasn't with him in that house.
no,
Right, meaning correct.
yes,
Okay. So by that time, you recall that there was a period where Leroy was living with Judy, who was still married to her husband Rusty, within the same house, different units. That's not right?
no.
Okay, how's that not right?
Because Judy Church moved my brother into her house with her husband.
Okay. And they lived together, right?
Yes,
And that, is it fair to say that they lived together in that dynamic for plus or minus a year or so? What would be your memory of that time?
no, it wasn't a year.
How long do you think?
Jeff, can we see, please?
Yes, we can. Yes, you may. I'll see you separately.
Judy Church and Leroy Fowler then left that home where Judy lived with Rusty, and moved out and eventually moved into 108 Central Ave in Salisbury, right?
Yes,
And you've been to that residence,
yes,
and you know that there's a two-story part of the main house, right?
yes,
And Judy and Leroy lived at first on the first story while they renovated the second story, is that right?
yes,
And then when they were done with that, they moved to the second story and started renovations on the first story eventually, right?
yes,
And there was also a cottage unit in the back where renovations were done and tenants lived, right?
yes,
Now, those renovations, they went on for quite a while in all those various phases, right?
yes,
It's a big project that Judy and Leroy did together.
yep,
And during that time, Judy and Leroy appeared to have a good relationship, right?
No, not, yes,
Okay. They bought a dog together named Salt, right?
yes,
They moved into these houses together, right?
yes,
And this is the era where you became friendly with Judy Church, right?
yes,
And she became a friend of yours,
yes,
not just the girlfriend of your brother, but someone you had an independent relationship with.
yes,
And you did things together, like yard sailing,
yes,
and sometimes you did that with Leroy, right?
yes,
And sometimes you did that with Judy,
yes,
and sometimes you all did it together. It
yes,
was one of everyone's kind of favorite activities.
yes,
Derivative from your side of the family, Judy
Yes.
joined in, right?
yep,
And those were good experiences you had with Judy during that time, right?
yes,
Now, during that time, to your knowledge, or did you know a woman named Barbara Randall?
yes,
Okay. You know that eventually Leroy started dating Barbara Randall as well, right?
yes,
And when he started dating Barbara Randall, was that several years after he had initially started dating Judy and living with Judy?
yes,
Okay. Does it sound right to you that there was about 3 years of Judy and Leroy as a couple before you found out that this Barbara Randall was also on the scene?
yes,
Okay. Now, when that happened, to your, did you develop an independent relationship also with Barbara?
yes,
And did you become friends with her?
yes,
And so you knew where she lived, right?
yes,
She was a hairdresser, right?
yes,
And she was a little younger than Judy, about 5 years younger than Judy, is that right?
yes,
Okay. And now for a period of time, really up until Leroy passed, to your knowledge, he had 2 girlfriends, right?
yes,
Okay. Judy, who he lived with,
yes,
right? And Barbara, who he spent time with. And you're aware that this caused certain friction and resentment between the women.
yes,
They didn't like each other.
yes,
Are you aware of nicknames they had for each other?
yes,
You know what Barbara referred to Judy as?
yes,
What?
grandma,
Okay. And Judy had a derogatory name for Barbara, to your knowledge, right? The
yes,
C word.
yes,
And this became how they referred to each other when they referred about each other, or to each other when they were speaking to you.
yes,
And Judy and Barbara did not spend time together.
no,
Okay. Now, Leroy worked his life in construction, is that right?
yes,
And was he a high school graduate?
no.
No. Where did you go to high school?
He went to Newburyport,
Newburyport High School.
and then, I'm sorry, Whittier.
Whittier, okay, and didn't finish.
Yes, he did, sorry.
And then he went into the construction trades
Yes,
and did a lot of work as a roofer,
yes,
and for many years.
yes,
One of his hobbies was riding motorcycles, right?
yes.
Okay. And Rusty Church, did you come to know Rusty Church?
No, I've only met him a few times.
Met him a few times.
Yes,
Are you aware that he was also a motorcycle rider?
yes,
Okay. And in fact, Judy would ride on the back of Leroy's motorcycle, right?
yes,
Did you see her do that?
yes,
Many times.
yes,
And they would go, around socially. She'd get on the back of the motorcycle, go up Salisbury Beach and journeys like that, right?
yes,
Okay. And would Barbara also, did you see Barbara at other times riding on the back of Leroy's motorcycle?
yes,
Okay. They wouldn't be on the same day though, that'd be different days, right?
Yes,
Okay. Now, 108 Central Ave was a house that Judy purchased with her financial means, to your knowledge, is that right?
Objection, Judge.
Sustained?
Do you know whether Leroy ever owned the home?
Objection.
Is it relevance or hearsay? Overruled. Do you may answer the question whether you know whether your brother ever owned a home?
no,
He did not.
no,
Okay. So 108 Central Ave, to your knowledge, was Judy's home. Leroy lived there.
yes,
Now, the dynamic between Barbara and Judy as the simultaneous girlfriends of Leroy went on for 3 or 4 years. Is that about right?
yes,
Okay. And it was an open, not a secret, it was an open thing, right? Yeah. And then in 2022, did you become aware that Judy and Leroy had plans to go to Florida?
yes,
Do you know if a house was purchased?
yes.
Do you know what town it was in?
It was in, Hernando, Florida.
Okay, Hernando, Florida.
Yep,
And do you recall that being sort of a trailer-style house?
yes,
And Judy had the cash to buy the house, right?
I don't know if it was hers and his,
Okay.
but I know they bought it down there when they went down.
Financially at that time, by the time we got to 2022, is it fair to say that Leroy's ability to earn a living got declined?
Yeah,
He had a pacemaker.
yep,
He was on Social Security disability for income.
yep,
He was using some food stamps to subsidize food costs, right?
yep,
And he was working sort of more part-time side jobs at that time.
yep,
He had a hobby of fixing up bicycles, right?
yep,
And so he would collect bicycles that were discarded or maybe available for very cheap money, fix them up, and then resell them. Is that right?
yep,
Okay. And he would do that based out of Judy's house, correct?
yep,
Okay. So his financials, and he worked some part-time, some odd jobs, like so if there was a project that could be done in a few days, he would still do that project, right?
yep,
But he was having physical problems that were limiting his ability to, or had curtailed his ability to make a living in full-time construction, right?
yep,
Back problems,
yep,
hip problems.
yep,
Okay. Now, back to the Florida house for a second. So, does it sound right that in December of 2021, Judy and Leroy drove to Florida for a period of time?
yes.
About 3 or 4 months. Is that how long they were gone?
No.
How long do you think they were gone?
About a month, maybe.
Okay. And that was the trip where they purchased the house.
Yes,
And Leroy came home from Florida with a new truck. You remember that?
yes,
Big black Dodge Ram truck, right?
yes, a used truck,
A used truck.
yes,
And that was the truck that he would have been driving from the end of that Florida trip after they bought the house until November when he passed away, right?
yes,
Okay. And he also had a couple of different motorcycles over time, right?
yes.
Okay. Now, did you become aware that Judy and Leroy were planning to return to Florida
Yes,
and that they were going to live down there?
yes,
And actually, in November 5th, around November 5th of 2022, they were in the packing stages of that plan.
yes,
A trailer had been filled up with stuff to bring to Florida, right?
yes,
And they were also maybe in the process of getting a second trailer to assist, is that right? If you know.
No, I don't know.
Okay, you're not sure about that,
Not sure.
but you know they were packing, and there was a trailer
Yes,
that
they
was
were
packed.
packing.
And his birthday was November 11th, right?
Yes,
And they were about to go to Florida, really any day there, right?
Objection, Judge.
Oh, what's your objection, Mr. Committee?
She doesn't know what their plans were.
Well, she's been testifying all about them, but if that's, the objection is sustained.
So, on November 11th was his birthday, right?
yes,
And it was the day after that that you learned that he had gotten sick, is that right? Was it the
No.
12th?
she called me the day of his birthday, the 11th.
Okay,
She called me and told me she was sitting at the hospital all day, the 11th, the
okay,
day of his birthday.
okay. So she made that phone call to you on the 11th,
Yes,
that she had been at Anna Jake's hospital all day,
yes,
and it seems to have upset you that that phone call wasn't made earlier.
yes.
Okay.
She
And,
sat there for 11 hours and didn't call a family member, and I always was called. She sat there for 11 hours.
okay. And now at that time, you were also going through some difficult personal circumstances with your husband, is that right?
Yes, and I was at the hospital. I was sitting one building over.
From Anna Jake's?
Yes, I was sitting at the cancer building. She sat at a hospital for 11 hours and didn't call a family member.
Okay. And she was the healthcare proxy, right?
She shouldn't have been because I was prior to that, so I don't know how she became.
Okay, but at that time, to your knowledge,
She says she was.
Okay,
I never saw any papers proving that
Okay.
she was.
Okay, fair enough. When she was there, you expected a call from her right away, right?
Yes, because I was always the one that was called.
Okay. Understood. But you actually were dealing with your husband's medical situation, which was very serious at the time,
Yes.
all that day, right?
She didn't know I was dealing with my husband's all that day.
Well, she knew your husband was sick.
Yes, she did.
Okay. And she was the one who was sitting in the hallway with Leroy, right?
Yes.
And by his bed, right?
Yeah, but she should have made a phone call after sitting there for 11 hours with someone that supposedly had to be on life support.
Ms. Carbone, I have to stop you. I just want you to listen to the question and answer the question.
Okay, sorry.
No need to apologize. Being a witness is a challenging thing, but I do need you to listen to the question and
Sorry.
simply answer the question. Again, no need to apologize. Go ahead, Mr. Scully.
Thank you, Your Honor. And is it fair to say that as what the information that was passed to you and that you learned sort of evolved?
Objection, Judge.
I missed the question. There's
Is it-
objections. Would you just repeat what you said,
Is
Mr.
it-
Scully, and I'll rule on the objection.
Is it fair to say that the information that you were learning about Leroy over the next few days sort of evolved?
Yes.
I'll allow that to stand.
Okay. And but the first information that you received about Leroy was in fact a phone call from Judy.
Yes.
She told you you were at Anna Jake's.
Yes.
Was it a phone call or a text?
It was a phone call.
Okay. And she told you, is it fair to...
Objection, Judge.
Sustained.
She gave you an update, right?
Name objection, Judge.
Did she give an update on medical condition? Is that the question?
Yes.
I'll allow that. You may say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. And so now, and you're upset that it's been a delay, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what action do you take to now kind of get involved in Leroy's medical care?
What action do I take?
So you find out that Leroy's been in the hospital all day for 8 hours, right?
Yes, they took him from there to Mount Auburn.
To Mount Auburn, right?
Yes.
And did Judy go to Mount Auburn, to your knowledge?
No, she said she had to go home and clean up the mess.
Okay. And did you go to Mount Auburn?
No, I made a phone call to see what was going on because they were transporting him.
Okay. And at some point, did you come across information that suggested that Leroy may have ingested antifreeze?
Yes, when I called the hospital once they got there.
Was that hospital Mount Auburn, or was that hospital
That was Mount Auburn.
Mount Auburn? Okay. And now, with that information, that was very alarming to you, right?
Yes,
And you started to wonder, how could this possibly happen, right?
yes,
You knew Leroy had issues with some substances, right?
yes,
Cocaine,
yes.
Percocets.
Yes,
Okay. And that sometimes those affected his health.
yes, I don't
Okay.
know about that affecting his health. I don't know.
There was nothing that you could think of as to why antifreeze, right?
Right,
And there was this text message exchange and a phone call that you testified to it on direct exam, right?
excuse me, sorry.
There was a phone call with Judy and a text message that was introduced during direct exam. Do you remember that? I'm going to get the text.
About antifreeze?
Yeah, well, let me get the text. Okay. Now, this text message, this is Exhibit 4. I'd like to put it on the screen. I don't know if this is going to be as legible as I would like.
Not sideways, I don't think.
Yes.
I don't know. Okay, let's see if I can zoom in.
Their zooming capabilities?
There are. Let's see if I can get it in. Maybe out one. I don't know. All right, this text message here says in part, from Judy to you, is that right?
Yes,
In green,
yes,
visiting is 1 to 8, one person at a time, just to let you know, exclamation point, right?
yes,
I'll leave to be there at 1 and leave before I'm driving in the dark. And then there's a couple of little emoji symbols, is that right?
yeah, you gotta go up a little bit.
I got what?
You have to go up.
I mean, these symbols right there.
Oh, yeah, yep,
Okay. And then you texted her back in blue, okay, thanks. Hope he'll be awake tomorrow. And a couple more little emoji symbols, right?
yep,
And then she sent you a text message. That says, me too, exclamation point. Think I'll bring him a coffee frap, exclamation point. LOL, meaning laugh out loud, right?
yep,
And you understood that to be a joke.
yep,
And you and her engaged in a number more text messages, right?
yep.
And you recall that your response to that,
Objection.
I'll counsel at sidebar.
so back to Exhibit 4 for a second. The last text that was introduced as part of that exhibit was from Judy to you, and it ends with the LOL symbolizing laugh out loud, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then, but there were more text messages that day, correct?
Yep,
And your response to that text message was, right, LOL, he better wonder about
Actually, no, not the second part. The first part may stand. Do you recall that your response was right, LOL? And if you don't,
yes,
okay, the answer is yes.
And with respect to the second part of that text message,
Objection.
That's the part I'm not permitting you to ask about.
okay, no, my objection, Judge.
I do?
And I would like to move this, subject to redaction, in as the next exhibit.
Well, you mean that one particular, right, LOL? If there's, I will admit that if there's a way to put that in that's just that. I don't know that. All right. So,
Okay. So the situation with Leroy at that time wasn't good, right?
right.
And you were you at that time angry with Judy for not communicating with you earlier?
At that point on the phone or the
Right.
text message?
Well, earlier in my cross-examination, you expressed how angry you were at her for spending 8 hours at the hospital without telling you
Yes,
all day at the hospital, right?
yes,
But now, in this exchange of text messages, you two are exchanging LOLs to each other, laugh out louds, right?
yeah. But I was angry that she didn't call me.
Okay. But at least in those text messages, you weren't expressing any anger towards Judy Church at that time.
Right,
And you continued to have text messages with her where she would update you about Leroy throughout that day, the 12th, right?
Same objection.
I'm going to allow that question. If you recall, you may answer.
that night,
Yes, meaning the 12th, that night.
yes,
And you remember Judy texting you that an update from the Mount Auburn Hospital,
yes,
telling you that Leroy had a kidney that was not functioning, and there was a buildup of bad blood, and they were doing dialysis.
yes,
And that in her text message, she told you, I gave them permission to do that.
yes,
Judge, same one.
I understand, overruled. I will allow that question and answer to stand. You understood from her text that she said she gave permission for dialysis, correct, Ms. Carbone?
yes,
Okay. And this was alarming to you.
yes,
And you remember your response was, oh my God, is he going to be okay?
yes.
Okay. I'd like to introduce that series of text messages specified to us next.
We don't need that in evidence.
Did I get it marked as I have it?
You may. They've heard this exchange. I allowed the questions. I didn't allow the content of the text in.
D for ID.
Now, you're now much more worried with that information that he is having kidney problems and needs dialysis, right?
Yes,
And at that point, still, Judy is your primary source of information, right?
yes,
And you're not directing, as you're texting back and forth, any anger towards her, right?
no,
Okay. You're asking for information and she's giving you information, right?
yeah,
Okay. And little Leroy also gets involved in some communications at that time, right?
Objection, Judge.
What's the objection?
I don't know who he's getting, I'm sure he's having conversations with lots of people, but who's he having conversations with?
All right, so you don't understand the question. Could you place the question again?
Yes. You know an individual referred to as little Leroy?
Yes,
Is that Leroy Fowler, your brother's son?
yes,
And did yourself and Judy and little Leroy set up a three-way group text
yes,
and also shared information back and forth about how Leroy was doing, right?
yes,
Okay. And is it fair to say that throughout these various text messages, Judy was expressing her own worry and concern?
Objection.
Just sustained.
Can we go to side by side?
No. Please continue.
Could I ask that these text messages be marked for identification?
You may. But we're not going to try this case at sidebar.
Sure.
E, so marked.
So at some point, while all this information is being exchanged, this group text message is being exchanged between you and little Leroy and Judy, you become Leroy's, or start acting as his healthcare proxy, is that right?
yes,
Okay. And you learn information that he has potentially ingested antifreeze, right?
yes,
And at some point, start to suspect Judy and become angry at Judy, right?
yes,
And the police actually come to visit you and others in your family to take recorded statements, right?
I meet with the police.
Where did that meeting take place?
That meeting took place at William Eaton's house.
William Eaton's house. Who's William Eaton?
He is Leroy the Third's uncle,
Okay,
which is Leroy's son.
okay. And so William Eaton, to your knowledge, was he someone who was potentially going to sell a trailer to Leroy?
Objection.
Sustained.
Um,
No, that means you don't have to answer.
oh, okay, sorry.
Do you know whether William Eaton owned a trailer?
I don't know.
Okay. And so on or about November 12th, is it fair to say that at William Eaton's house, yourself and Leroy Fowler Jr., little Leroy, and Michael Hawkins all go and are interviewed by police, right?
Michael Hawkins, no.
You don't remember Michael? Okay.
Me and Leroy met at Billy Eaton's house
Okay.
to be interviewed.
And two police officers they set up like a little room, or a little room was designated, right?
Yes,
In the house.
yes.
Is it like a kid's room?
No, we were in a dining room.
A dining room, okay.
Yes,
And people were brought in one at a time to be questioned by these two police officers, right?
yes,
And it was you, right?
yes,
And little Leroy, right?
yes,
And William Eaton, right?
yes.
And you don't think Michael Fowler was there?
Michael Hawkins?
I mean, Michael Hawkins was there.
He was not there when I was
Okay.
there, no.
Okay. And that took place for about an hour on that day, right?
Yeah,
And by that time, is it fair to say that you were very upset with Judy,
Yes,
angry,
yes,
resented her,
yes,
and also had become highly suspicious, right?
yes,
And started to form a belief that somehow she was the one who poisoned Leroy with antifreeze.
yes.
And at that time, did you have any belief as to how the antifreeze was slipped to Leroy?
Well, no, I'll try it.
Excuse me, did I have,
You had some belief at that time that Judy had poisoned Leroy with antifreeze, right?
yes,
And that he didn't know this, it just, she did it to him, right?
I thought she did, maybe.
Okay.
I wasn't sure.
Okay. And now, did you have in your mind, as you're talking to police and as you have this thought, how that physically happened? Did you think it was milkshakes?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I thought, because she even made a comment to me about it.
Okay.
But I really was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Right. And that comment was part of a series of LOL jokes, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And so now the antifreeze in the milkshake. I'm just asking what you thought at the time. Did you think that she poured antifreeze into a milkshake? Was it a coffee shake or a milkshake?
Judge, objection.
Um,
I don't,
just a moment, just a moment,
well,
just a moment. I'm gonna have to see counsel at sidebar, as much as I am reluctant to. I have to see counsel at sidebar.
All right, thank you for your patience. I have a few more questions, not many, all right?
Yep.
All right, so we're back at the setting of that interview that took place, right?
yep,
And it was at Mr. Eaton's house.
yep,
And the police officers set up an interview place where they took people one at a time into a room to interview them, right?
yep,
And these are family members and friends, right?
yep.
And they were all outside of that interview room in Mr. Eaton's home together, right?
Yep.
And all arrived, did you arrive at the same time or at different times?
Different times.
How did you get there?
I
Transportation?
drove myself.
Drove yourself, okay. And do you remember how Mr. Little Leroy Fowler got there?
He lived in the other side of the house.
Oh, so he was there, so he just came around to the
He
other
was
side.
there when I got there.
Okay. And how long were you there before the police arrived?
They were already there when I got there.
Okay. And how long were you there in total?
I don't know, maybe an hour. I probably.
Okay. And so do you remember telling the police that you were concerned that Judy Church was poisoning Leroy Fowler by putting antifreeze into his milkshake or coffee shake?
Yeah,
Okay. And you told them that because that was your concern, right?
yes,
And that was all derivative of those LOL joke conversations, right?
yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Judy's joke about poisoning Leroy wasn't so funny when you learned that he'd actually been poisoned, was it?
No,
Wasn't
Scully, anything to follow up on that?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carbone.
Thank you.
Jeff,